Last night, I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate leading to the drive. Then, like all dreamers, I was possessed of a sudden with supernatural powers and passed like a spirit through the barrier before me. But as I advanced, I was aware that a change had come upon it. Nature had come into her own again, and little by little had encroached upon the drive with long, tenacious fingers. On and on wound the poor thread that had once been our drive. And finally, there was Mandalay. Mandalay, secretive and silent. Time could not mar the perfect symmetry of those walls. And then a cloud came upon the moon and hovered an instant like a dark hand before a face. I looked upon a desolate shell.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
But when you look at the story of those two films, they are the inverse of each other. That you have 2001 is a story of evolution, of the evolution of consciousness. The astronaut ends up transforming into this star child at the end of the film, right? So he evolves to the next stage
Right.
of human evolution. Okay, then in The Shining, it's the exact opposite. It's a de-evolution. You have Jack, who's becoming more animalistic. He's losing his consciousness. And he ends up, at the end of the film, essentially being transported into a two-dimensional photograph. So this is another element that I wanted to bring up that I guess is a kind of, they all kind of connect together. That's another thing that I thought about with The Shining that I don't think people talk about enough, which is that the horror of The Shining is about going from the third dimension to the second dimension. You're actually traveling in the wrong direction. 2001 is about going to the next dimension, meeting God or aliens or like fifth dimensional beings, like in Interstellar. You're in the fifth dimensional bookcase.
Right.
And you can sort of transcend space and time, right? And that's like this forward momentum of human consciousness. And then The Shining shows the opposite. The Shining is he devolves. He goes from a three-dimensional human being and he ends as a two-dimensional photograph in black and white on a wall. And so he's essentially flattened. He's taken from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions, and he's trapped. He's imprisoned on a wall.
So in reverse, he's a monkey. You're basically saying he's a monkey on the monolith is what you're trying to say if you reverse the two films. You're taking Jack at the end of The Shining being in two-dimensional image, and you're going, that being the ending of The Shining is the beginning of 2001 where you're a monkey on the monolith. Is that the corollary connection if you reverse one of the two films and mush them together?
Somewhat, yeah. And when you look at Jack at the end, he starts barking, he starts screaming, bellowing. Exactly. He loses the ability to even form words. He stops becoming a human being. He turns into an animal.
He's holding an axe. He's holding an axe, which is the metaphor for the bone.
The bone. That's right. So he turns
that he was going to murder his own child with, which in 2001 you murdered the other monkeys with, which is your own brethren or whatever, your own species, not your specific kin, but I get where you're going.
Exactly. Jack becomes an ape at the end of 2001 with a bone at the end of The Shining.
So is Shelley Hal? Where
Sorry,
are we
did
at
I
the
say
minute?
at the end of 2001? Jack becomes an ape at the beginning of 2001.
There's no pickups in 2.0. You leave it in. You have to leave in. You have to leave in your sorries. You have to leave in your sorries.
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So all right, got
yeah,
it. I see
exactly.
where you're going to the beginning to end. I get it. Now,
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark, a puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
I've been waiting over 25, 24 years, somewhere around there, to have this conversation.
We finally made it to The Shining.
This is one that you know, when I saw your first like short film back in college, I was just like, oh, Kubrick fan, got it. But you were too prickly at the time for us to be able to actually have a conversation. And now we're friends and we have a podcast together and we've been beating around the bush for a long period of time around The Shining. And we're finally to my favorite movie of all time. We're finally at The Shining. I'm so excited.
Yeah, your favorite movie of all time, which I didn't know that until just recently, until we became friends again.
I think I
Yeah.
might have said that once on the podcast earlier. At some point, I think I might have thrown that in there.
Yeah, so one of my favorite movies, it's my pick, it's my Halloween pick. I think I got it in there before you. So I
You
ended up with
did,
the
and I
pick,
was a
but
little nettled when you finally picked that one. Or back in the day when we were doing these picks, I was like, "Wait, you get to pick The Shining? Okay."
yeah, this is one of those mutual ones because it's your favorite movie. It's definitely one of my favorite movies. It's up there. I'll tell you, watching it again this week and then doing research and everything, it just continues to grow in my mind, and my appreciation for the film just continues to grow. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You having said that, so what is your favorite movie?
Well, I said my favorite movie was Richard Donner's Superman,
Oh,
1978.
right. Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, The
Yeah,
Shining
so
shits
that's
on that, so that's fine. That's that's good.
that's
But to each
my
their own.
that's
To each their own. To each their own.
that's my sentimental favorite. That's my childhood favorite. I used to say for a long
Right.
time that 2001: A Space Odyssey was actually my favorite movie. That's always been like my serious pick for my favorite movie. But then, funnily, when we watched 2001 on the podcast, I said I didn't enjoy it as much. And I said I realized that over the years, I think The Shining has, like I said, just grown and grown in my mind. And I might even like The Shining more than 2001 now. In fact, I think I do I like it more. It's definitely
You're
a more
coming.
enjoyable experience.
You're coming to Team Greg. You're slowly
Yeah.
coming to Team Greg when it comes between those two
It's
films.
it's more entertaining, but the fascinating thing is that those two movies are linked. And that's a big thing of what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You wanna go that? Okay, 'cause
So now
now
we're getting into it.
yeah, so now I just went like, okay, you wanna go down that thread because there's that narrative. That's one of like the 50 theories and 50 narrative threads that people have brought to this film and
Well,
put into this film.
yeah, I think what we should do for the podcast is we should just dive into the meaning of the movie. That's what I
Wow.
think.
Okay. I like this
What do
because
you
you're
think?
saying I think that's interesting. If you want to say like the meaning of the movie, okay, there's a lot of ways to open that. I was thinking potentially we talk about this film and how much it impacted us or whatever. But hey, if we just want to go in
Okay.
straight in, I'm down. You want to go straight to?
Let's do that quickly just so we can get a
Oh, I
fun
can't do
sense
it
of
quickly. Let's just
background.
go to the meaning of the movie. Fuck it. Let's go your way. This is 2.0. Let's go Andrew's way. The meaning of the movie. The meaning of The Shining. The ultimate definitive
Okay.
final version of the meaning of The Shining.
Okay. Let's have a little foreplay then. We don't have to go straight into it. Okay, so here's I'll just say this super fast then. I'll give my version and then you give your fast version because it's your favorite film.
Well,
So I
I'm
do
not
want to
gonna.
hear about.
You will get that from me, but I won't just
Okay.
give here's the meaning of the movie thing. It is a flower
Right.
that needs to be opened. It does need to be caressed.
Mm.
I would love to hear your just, here's the meaning of the movie. And then that would be a good jumping off point. I think it would be. So yeah, screw the
Mm.
way that I grew up
Mm.
watching the movie in 4x3 and the helicopter and this and that and the whole thing. Let's just like, let's go into Andrew's meaning of the movie. This is what I've been waiting years and years and years, fucking decades for. So let's go
Oh,
to it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll just tell you quick though. Okay, before we get, because I actually I like
There
your
you go.
idea.
You're just
Let's
teasing the audience.
do a
You're
little bit.
doing what
Yeah,
the
I'm gonna do a
algorithm
little
needs
tease.
these days. They're like, wait, he's gonna say it. Oh no,
Right,
he's not
right.
gonna say it. Okay.
Because we're gonna get there. Because we got to get into the substance on this one. Because this is one of the most substantive, maybe the single most substantive movie ever made. Right, with the most
Wow.
layers
We're
and the
using
most
some
meaning.
big SAT words right off the bat
Yeah.
on this one.
So okay, so before we, because we'll get to that, but before we get there, so I'll tell you, I do have actually a funny story about The Shining. So just on a personal level, so I got into movies as a teenager, and then I remember The Shining would be on TV a lot, and it was a famous movie. It had Jack Nicholson. It's a horror film. It's considered a classic film when I was a kid, and I didn't know that Stanley Kubrick was the director though. Because I was a kid and the movie would just get played on TV, so I'd watch it sometimes, and
What
I
years was this? Because
remember liking it.
I don't ever remember it being on TV. So I'm interested.
Yeah.
What years was this?
Yeah, like mid to late 90s, in that range.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it would get played like, horror movie.
And was
It
this
was
when
a
you were in New
popular
Jersey?
film. Yeah, yeah, I believe
Wow. I
so.
wonder if they played
Believe
that in
so.
New Jersey because they weren't playing it for me on AMC or any other channels that I would like search for
Okay,
things like that.
yeah.
Anyway, I interrupted. Please
Yeah.
continue.
For some reason, I remember A&E, that channel. They would play it.
That was a
Yeah,
great channel. It was a great channel.
yeah. Yeah, stood for arts and entertainment. Okay. All right. Anyway, so it would get played on TV, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I remember I got into movie making more seriously, and then I learned about all of Kubrick's films. And at that time, I loved Clockwork Orange. That was the first movie that I really fell in love with of his. And then I came to appreciate 2001, which we talked about in our 2001 episode. That when I first saw it, I thought, oh, it's kind of interesting, but a little weird. Don't quite get it. And then as I watched it more as a teenager, by the time I went to college at age 18, 2001 was my favorite movie. And so I had gained this appreciation for Kubrick's films, but The Shining was actually not one that I went back and revisited. And I didn't really think of that as one of his best films. And I didn't
That
think
was
of
just
that as
one of
one of
those
his
movies
more.
that played on A&E late night back in the
Right.
day. Yeah.
It was more conventional, it's horror, it's more genre, it's like it's Kubrick being more accessible. And at that time, I liked the more artsy stuff. So I didn't really take The Shining that seriously, and I didn't think it was his top level of work.
You had a Steven Spielberg viewing of that film.
Right, right. The same way that Spielberg describes it, exactly. And I think a lot of Kubrick's movies have that quality, where you first see them and you don't quite understand the depth, and they don't have that immediate impact. And then it's like this slow burn where the more you watch them, the more intrigued you get. And that didn't happen to me until years and years later on The Shining, that I have a funny story. So I ended up going out with this girl when I was in my 20s, and she really liked horror movies. And so we had set a date for Halloween Day. This is like, 10 years later, right after college. And I hadn't seen The Shining, I think, since then. Hadn't seen it in many, many years. And I set this date, and I think the girl said to me, "Oh, every Halloween I watch The Shining." And I thought, "Oh, that's a Kubrick movie. Like, that's interesting. Yeah."
I would have married her on the spot.
You would have loved this girl.
Sight unseen.
Yeah, you would have loved her. She loved horror movies. I remember our first date, we went to Paranormal Activity 3 in the theater
All right. Well,
together.
I take it back. If I take it back. Yeah. It was close. Yeah. She had me with The Shining, and I was like, I would just started fantasizing my Friday the 13th, the amount of stuff, and you're like, Paranormal Activity 3. Got it. All right. Understood. Not
Yeah,
happening.
yeah. So she was a huge horror movie fan. So she said, Every Halloween, I watch The Shining, and I said, "Oh, I love The Shining, how about we watch it together on Halloween?" So we set a date. I went over to her apartment, and, it was early in our dating, and I don't think we had even kissed. So it was like the little bit of the nervousness of like, are we
And
gonna
what?
kiss?
How old
I
were
don't
you?
know.
Let's give it that context.
Probably 26, 27, something like
Got it.
that.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're sitting there watching The Shining, and it was one of those experiences that I've mentioned to you a few times where it's like you're on a date, but you're watching
Oh
the movie,
no.
and the
Oh
movie's
no.
so
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
just
Oh
completely
no.
forgot about the date. And
Because this was the time where you should be making a first move. Something should potentially be happening, but then you're just like, I care about the movie more than I care about you. And yeah, I've destroyed
yeah,
relationships that way as well.
yeah, it's like the perfect Netflix and chill movie is a movie that's a little bit boring.
Paranormal Activity 3 is great for that. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so The Shining was not like that. So I just remember, not having seen the film in a long time, and I'm on this date, so I'm a little bit distracted, and yet the movie's playing. And I just remember thinking, some of these shots, I had forgotten, and some of those shots are just amazing, like the camera dollying into the room where Jack is writing on the typewriter, and you just get that wide shot, that
You're
symmetrical
talking
wide shot
from
with the
behind
chandeliers.
his back, and you just
Yeah.
hear, and that's the night. I think they're referring to the one that's more of a nighttime sequence before Shelley comes in. You just hear the typewriter keys going, and it's just this slow movement, and you see those the two pillars on the side are just slowly moving away from the frame. You're entering into that world. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like you're falling in love
Yeah.
with that shot, not the girl that you should be on the date with at that point. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so the whole movie went by, and I just appreciated it on that level the whole time. I just thought, I forgot how amazing the cinematography is in this movie. I was like, this movie's incredible. And when the movie was over, I turned to the girl and I said, gosh, that movie was better than I thought it was gonna be. I don't remember it being that good. And I was kind of like excited. I was like, that was really unexpected. And cut to the girl and I didn't work out.
Cut
Many
to I
years
fell in
later.
love with the movie, not the girl. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, the girl, that part I didn't care about, but I just remember that. I don't even remember the girl's name, funnily enough, but it's like I remember the movie, because that was the night I fell in love with The Shining, like I think really for the first time.
I think I know a
Yeah.
title for this episode on YouTube. The night
Okay.
Andrew fell in love with The Shining.
Yeah. But then it really didn't happen until maybe a year or two after that. I remember it was soon after that internet analysis started becoming more and more prevalent. And I happened to stumble upon an essay written by a guy called the Mastermind. He called himself the Mastermind with no vowels. So it's all consonants. So it's
Spell
MST.
that for spell that for us
Yeah.
morons.
Yeah. It's spelled MSTRMND. So his real name is Kevin MacLeod. He ended up later doing a commentary track on the Room 237 documentary. He wasn't in the Room 237 documentary, but he later decided to do a commentary track because I remember he said he saw the documentary. He was asked to be in that documentary, and he declined because he said that he thought it was going to make the people in it look bad, like look like kind of kooky, crazy people. So he said, I don't want to be grouped with a bunch of wackos who are, just saying random things about The Shining.
He seems very much like an Andrew type person who would approach something in that type of way.
He
Yes.
and I would probably get along really well.
You
Yeah.
guys would you'd either get along so well or you'd hate each other. It's binary.
Right.
There's no middle ground with that.
So, yes. Oh, so then he said he saw the documentary and he realized actually this is a fantastic documentary and I would love to be a part of it. And so I think the director asked him, would you do a commentary on it? So he ended up doing a commentary track that's on the Blu-ray. And I watched that as well. But his essay on The Shining, I think was a turning point in my life, I realize, because it was somebody writing about a movie in a way that I'd never heard before. And I didn't know that movies could be that deep and that rich, with all these thematic layers to a degree that almost like you almost can't even comprehend. And I recently put on the Room 237 documentary, and I realized it's all these people who say, "Oh, I have this particular expertise in, Native American symbols. I have this particular expertise in World War II and the Nazis, and it's all these people coming in with their expertise and they're seeing little elements in The Shining and saying, "Oh, this movie's a metaphor for this thing that I know about, that I'm an expert in." The thing is that it's like 10 different people who are experts in all these different subjects. One of them is about the Apollo 11 mission to the moon, right? And all these people are coming together saying this film has subliminal messaging that's about this particular subject, and it's all different subjects. And the interesting thing is that all the subjects connect together, though, and it becomes this kind of grand mosaic. And so Kubrick is creating this work of art that, encompasses all of these different themes, and it has this like three-dimensionality because it's like a diamond. It's like you can turn it and you can rotate it. You could see it from all these different angles. And that's what he created. It's almost like the hotel itself. It's like this maze-like creation. And so I remember reading that essay, and I remember I worked at a film school at the time, and I remember I went in and I showed my teacher. He was the teacher of the class. And, I said, "Look at this essay I'm reading, what do you think of that?" He read a little bit. He was kinda like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And, a lot of times with The Shining, what I hear is people dismiss these things, these theories, these, like, really deep intellectual theories about the film. And people love to say, "Oh, it's just coincidence," or whatever. And I remember when I read this essay by the mastermind, I thought, this is not coincidence. And that became so exciting to me. I realized that everything Kubrick is doing was deliberate. I think he took his time. He was incredibly patient, and he did a lot of research, and he layered in all of these elements. It's like a master baker, creating this cake, and it has all these layers, and he took his time. And so, over the years, as I've watched the movie more and more and more, my appreciation has just increased and increased, and it continues to increase. And I've since said that it's on my top 10 of all time. I think it's one of the top 10 greatest movies ever made. Just because of everything I'm saying, because you can dissect it and then the amount of conversation that it has created and just what it has shown, I think for filmmakers like me and you. I don't know about you, but I mean, to me, it's incredibly inspiring because it makes me see how much possibility there is in this art form in a way where I don't know if people even realized it. So that's what I love so much about Kubrick, is that he's creating work that is so complex and so rich that's like, it almost expands your idea of what the medium is even capable of.
I mean, it's a great
Oh,
introduction, a great way to
yeah.
start
That was
this film.
yeah. So that was my experience with the film when I was younger. And then over the past few years, as I've watched the film a few times, I watched it with Hazel. She loves it. We talk about it. I've thought about it on my own. Okay. And what has happened to me over the years is I think I've gotten smarter. I've learned a little bit about life. And I've also learned, through doing this type of research for my whole life. I mean, I've loved movies my whole life, and I've read essays, I've read reviews, I've, really immersed myself in film criticism and filmmaking and all things film for my entire life. And I think over the course of my life, what has happened is I've been able to kind of read films much better. And so now, as an adult where I am in my life, I think I actually have ideas that I want to share. to contribute to this conversation, because you have the Room 237 documentary, you have all these various interpretations of The Shining, and I realized there was about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I forget exactly when, but it was a couple of years ago, I kind of had a moment where I started realizing things about The Shining. I watched The Shining and I watched the Room 237 documentary back to back, and sparks started kicking off in my mind, and I started having ideas about the film that I had never heard from other people. So that became really exciting. And so it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start a podcast in the first place, is to have an
Wow. Okay.
opportunity. No, to have an opportunity to talk about movies like, there's a few movies like this where I'd like to share my thoughts, but this is one of the biggest ones, because this is a movie that has had so much conversation around it. And so, yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to do a podcast is to talk about this movie amongst a few others in particular. But yeah, but really this film was a big part of that, because it's like, what is the outlet that I can have? And I like doing it in a fun way. I like doing it where I just talk to my friend. So I'm gonna share with you. And this is your favorite
That's
movie,
that's
so
what I want.
it works out
That's what I
perfectly.
want.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's 100% what I want.
So I know we're putting this out there to the world, but at the same time, just me
Well,
and you right
they're allowed to
now,
be
this is,
they're allowed to be guests.
yeah,
That's why we started this
exactly. Yeah.
episode in the way I just said, like,
Yeah.
hey man, we haven't really talked about The Shining. We've never gotten to talk about it. I was like, let's not even have a powwow before. Let's just hit record, get on, and let's
Yeah.
just like, this is our experience of us talking about The Shining for the first time, and I've wanted to know for numerous years how
Yeah.
you look at The Shining, which interpretation you have, because there's so many different. Which ones you give credence to, which ones you don't. Do you think it's a blend of all? What is there? The number 42, like everything placed into the thing. How deep do you want to
Yeah.
go with this conversation? And and then I'll save potentially for the end of this, because I think it's good that we explore all those. And I'll save potentially like Christiane Kubrick and the way that she kind of looked at certain things, and then um what's the name of his like closest confidant that was in Barry Lyndon for the long time,
Oh, Leon
Vitali.
Vitali. Yeah.
Vitali, right, and then
Yeah.
his dismissiveness of some of the way that other people looked at things, and was he kept in the dark, was he not? But anyway, like I do want to explore all avenues of this with you
Yeah.
in a very deep way. And my I have to bring up, because when you bring up, this is going to be interesting to you, and you have to know that I'm telling you the absolute ultimate truth when it comes to this. You know that prior to doing our podcast, like I kind of did on the last Halloween, I like looking at the cinematographer. And I like looking at, like, the night before, like, what did the cinematographer do? Let me see these other films that could have been there. I swear to you, I'm not lying to you when I say this. I'm gonna save it for a little bit, but the cinematographer, John Alcott, kind of started on 2001. He was there with Kubrick. He wasn't the main cinematographer or anything, but he did A Clockwork Orange, which, as I told you last night, was my second favorite film. I only learned that today. I've known John Alcott, but I never like. It's always Kubrick. It's always a Kubrick movie to me.
Mm.
So I never really looked at that. But I was like, wait. So the guy did not only my second favorite film, he also did Barry Lyndon. So he did Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, and The Shining. I mean, forget about it. Right there. This is in the pantheon. Then, I shit you not, what movie did I tell you last night that I was in the mood to watch?
Right, right. It was some 80s movie, like, called, like, Hot Summer or something like
Yep,
that.
you're
What was
very
it?
close. It's Whitewater Summer. I shit you not. He's the cinematographer of Whitewater Summer. The night before we record The Shining, Whitewater Summer, which there's no reference, like there's no Kubrick shots in this movie in any way whatsoever. We had a whole conversation last night where I'm like, I might swap out something soon to like watch Whitewater Summer. I'm just kind of in the mood to watch Whitewater Summer. And I was like, winter's just entering, and you're like, oh, do you want to have this thing? And I was like, I might want to move things around. I looked up literally 20 minutes ago when I barely had any time to like study or look into this, because I know The Shining very well. I know the lore very well. I was like, let me see what the cinematographer did. And I saw 1987 Whitewater Summer, and I was like, I can't wait to tell Andrew that. I was like, this is insane.
Very interesting. It's almost like a Shining style ESP thing where it gets sent to your brain.
100%. That's what it was. I was sitting there last
Yeah.
night going, I'm in the mood to watch Whitewater Summer the night before we're finally going to review The Shining.
That's
And there's a
great.
Cooper connection. This episode is brought to you by Red Rum, the only premium Caribbean spirit that tastes even better when whispered backwards in a spooky hallway. Distilled with notes of vanilla, oak, and just a hint of bash your brains in. Red Rum pairs perfectly with long winners, creepy bartenders who know too much, and ignoring your child's psychic warnings. Whether you're relaxing by a roaring fire or chasing your loved ones through a hedge maze with an axe, Red Rum gives you that warm, smooth burn that says, it's okay you dislocated your son's arm, that was 3 goddamn years ago. Order online and use promo code Andrew and Greg at checkout, and you'll receive a complimentary bear costume accessory kit, perfect for, let's say, private events in luxury hotel bedrooms. Red Rum, all work and no play makes for a delightful evening. Drink responsibly. And remember, if the bartender says your money's no good here, that's because your soul is the currency.
Okay, so tell me your origin with The Shining. It's your favorite movie. How did that happen?
Right. So I was semi-protected from the film when I was really young. I used to watch a bunch of horror, and I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast that one of my friend's younger brother had seen The Shining, and he had like night terrors on it and whatnot. And I was just like, Mom, no, why are you gonna let me watch Freddy, Jason, everything else, but you won't let me watch The Shining? So it became a little bit of a protected thing for me from being under the age of 10 or whatever. Like, oh, you can't watch The Shining yet. And I was like, well, that's like, it's a rite of passage. I didn't want to like, I wasn't sitting there, I can't wait till I'm 16 and I can drive, or 18 and drink and this and that. I was like, I'm under 10. I want to watch The Shining. Like, why am I not allowed to watch this thing that's getting built up? And it was probably only like 6 months or something where I wasn't able to watch it, but I was able to watch everything else. Finally, when I got to watch it, on VHS, there was no internet. There was no talk to your friends about it. None of your friends are, really seeing it. I mean, my friend's younger brother had seen it and just had these weird night terrors, and my other friend kind of didn't care about this longer, boring movie of whatever the fuck. I was transfixed and brought into this movie where I was not just watching a movie for shots, I was feeling a tone that was placed over me, and I was going, "What is this trance that I'm being placed in?" Because as a young kid, you're watching, like, Jurassic Park or something else. Super high energy, high octane, shoot some, just like doing a line of coke, is for a kid watching like a fast-paced movie. And this would be considered a much slower paced film. But I was sitting there watching it going, I am being transported into a feeling, into a tone, into another place where even you could look at some of the acting and be in that Spielberg type way and be like, this seems like there's overacting. This seems like there's strangeness going on here. Like, what is this type of thing? But my whole thing was, what is this impending doom? This impending fear that I'm feeling? This tension that is just building throughout this. And I had never experienced something like that in such a long way, where I'm even watching a long explanation scene between Danny and Halloran, and when he says the word toast, he has this S that like whistles in his mouth. Like every single thing about this was intriguing to me and bringing me in. And it's not just the okay, many shots are very how would you say when something looks my brain is misfiring right now, but when something looks
Symmetrical?
symmetrical, right. It's not just the symmetrical
Mm.
shots, because many of the close-up shots are off three-quarter angles on somebody, like, but every aspect of everything to me was just interesting, and I was brought into that, and it was one of the very first times that I noticed, deep camera movement. Like, the Steadicam aspect to it as a child was something that enthralled me, Danny going up and down, and moving like that, because I was playing around with little cameras and I was like, I can't move my camera like that. And this is before, again, the internet. So I'm trying to figure out, how did this person do these things as a young kid? And no one else around me gave a shit about any of that. So I'm sitting here going like, I've discovered this undiscovered gem that no one else cares about and nobody else knows about it. And it's the early 90s and I have nowhere to turn to. And people are just like, oh yeah, Kubrick. Yeah, he did that. Like adults that I would speak to. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to know everything. Like if the internet was around at that time, I would have been Googling and looking at absolutely everything. All I had to look at was his other films. And I would look back at, a Clockwork Orange and go like, okay, well, yeah, the same type of camera movements, specifically when it comes to like Steadicam, were not done within this film. There's walking behind Alex as he moves into, the I don't know, that giant, what is it? Do you know the shot I'm talking about?
No, in Clockwork.
So there's the one where he walks in and it's like that Eastern European Soviet bloc type thing, and it's like a very long dolly shot that has a very shaky movement to it, because it's like a guy being handheld on top of like a dolly that they're pushing him on. And I was just like, why does that look different than this? And I was like, why does this movie from 1980 have this, look to it? So it was my understanding of the Steadicam at the time. But even like 10 years after that, nobody was using the Steadicam like him until the one shot in Goodfellas, when I was just like, Martin Scorsese is on the same shit that this guy is. So it was all a mystery to me, the tone, the feeling, the decisions of camera movements that were happening throughout these long dissolves. I was more drawn into this as a trance feeling versus just like, here's the story and here's the plot. I was going, why does this movie mesmerize me as a kid? Where the best person to describe that was like Spielberg saying, like, when you put on a Stanley Kubrick film, like you just can't turn it off. And that has always been my trance with him, but specifically with The Shining. Like, I'm terrified to kind of turn it on because I kind of know I'm not going to do anything else for the rest of, the next 2.5 hours. I'm like, all right, well, guess I'm into The Shining from the da, na, na, na. I'm done. And it's funny that The Shining and Clockwork are my number 1 and number 2, and they both start with that exact same sound. If you ever listen back to A Clockwork Orange, this is the real weepy and lang story beginning, but it has the same da, na, 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 done with this synth type aspect to it.
Yeah, both films open with this kind of heavy musical tone. You cut in.
And the exact, but the exact, when you listen to A Clockwork, like after it's it has the exact same tones of it's the same Shining tones in there, and it was Clockwork's done before The Shining. So when he worked with Wendy Carlos on this, he obviously built that out.
So what puts this one as number 1 for you? So, it's a great movie, right? But why number 1?
Because there's nothing better. Everything about this, not only like I'm working it backwards from saying like the tone of the movie is what affected me. The trance of this movie is what affected me. But then as you dissect the film on every level, there's always something interesting to look at there in every aspect from this movie. Whether it be some of the strange performances that then I think a lot of the aspect of strange performances and certain things that happen throughout it really culminate to the ending of how terrifying it is that Jack is turning on his family. And when you really see him going, you ever have a single moment's thought about my responsibilities to my employers? Do you ever think what would happen to my future if I were to fail to live up those responsibilities? Do you? Like that, and you get to see this, like that affected me as a kid, going like, wow, what is the most terrifying thing to a child? Your family turning in on itself, but your father deciding, I'm going to murder your mother and then kill you after it. And that's just, again, we're not going deep yet. I'm just talking surface level of what's happening there. As a child watching, you're just saying, what was the thing that kind of affected you within that? that aspect is just going like, wow, the family unit just got crunched down into nothing and it wants to eat itself from the inside. We can go into why and all of that. But that small terror aspect that I think we can kind of forget about when we start going into all the other aspects of, hey, Kubrick put this in and that in, and blah blah blah, and I got it. But the Stephen King aspect of what's at the like the root core of it, is that like here's a guy dealing with alcoholism. You're being stowed away. Like these are the things that I was just looking at as a kid. And then your father decides to murder the family, and how terrifying is that? And it's set in this most secluded place, which comes back to what we were talking about in Halloween, redefining what happened in the 80s. What's the first thing you do? You seclude a group of people you care about in the middle of nowhere, and then an outside force comes. Now, in this, the outside force could be the Overlook Hotel, it could be the ghosts, the whole thing. But the surface level of that is the father of the family decides to murder the family. And we could say for whatever reasons he does it, but just the surface level, that's a terrifying thing. If you wake up secluded with your family who's supposed to love you, and then the father figure of the family decides to go, I'm going to murder my family for whatever reason, that's just terrifying. There's nowhere to go. You're in the middle
Yeah.
of nowhere. You can talk to no one. KDK1 calling KDK12. Are you receiving me? Like, there's nowhere to go. No one's getting to you. Halloran's, sure, he's fucking, I'll take 5.5 fucking weeks to get up to you. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere, and your dad's got an axe, and he wants to murder you.
Yeah, I think that's why Hazel loves the movie too, actually. She also loves it, and which is it's a strange film for her to love. And we watched it together, and she wanted to watch the Room 237 documentary, and she got really into it this week. And I asked her, because I thought you would ask me, and I asked her, what is it that you love so much? And she mentioned a few things, but I think, she's big into like the relationship, the kind of interpersonal dynamics. And I think the fact that it's a family and it's a husband and wife, it's this domestic, conflict essentially.
That's a way of putting it.
And
Conflict, yeah. Abuse, it could be thrown in there as well. But yeah, conflict. Yep.
yeah, yeah, very abusive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if in the past I remember watching the film and not really thinking of anything of it, but now I think we're at a point in our culture where you watch this film and I was thinking, wow, Jack is just abusive to Wendy like the entire way through.
Well, it's
I mean, even
horrific.
from the start. Yeah,
Yeah,
from the
he's
start, it's
horrific.
like,
He's sitting, he's driving up to the Overlook with them. He's like, "See, honey, you saw it on the television." Like he's going crazy already. Like this guy's off hinged, not good.
right, right.
And we can go into the specifics of when he decided to stop drinking. I can count the months. Like there's interesting things that we can get into. But yeah, from the
Okay.
beginning of this aspect, this person is very unhinged would be the way to just lightly put
Yeah.
that.
Resentful of his
Oh,
life and
great
of his
word, great word,
wife, right?
great word,
Yeah.
yes.
It's like he resents Wendy, in a way, almost Danny as well. I mean, he says, I love Danny, I
Yeah,
love
but
the
he pulled
little
his arm out of
bastard or
his
whatever he says.
no, that little fucker, all I tried to do was pull him
Yeah.
up, like, he's resentful is a great way of putting it. He's resentful of the life he's
Yeah.
currently living, that guy, yes.
He's a bitter man, he's somebody he's not happy with where he is in life. He wants to be a writer, he probably wants to be Stephen King, he wants to be a successful novelist, he wants to be respected. He seems to desire other women as well.
Oh
It's
yeah,
almost like he doesn't.
he looks at the 2 women when they're leaving, he's like, Goodbye,
Right.
girls," and he takes that extra little moment to be like, "Yeah, goodbye, girls. I guess I'm gonna be stuck up here with fucking Wendy for the next fucking 6 months or whatever the fuck." Like, there's little subtle
Yeah.
hints at that. The Playboy magazine, all the fucking yeah, it's all there.
Right, the Playgirl
Oh,
magazine.
Playgirl,
It's
yes,
so
I'm
it
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
which is even more interesting because Playgirl has pictures of naked men in it.
It does have
So
men as
there's
well,
so
yes.
there's a subtle what's going on with Jack thing there. Yeah. That's a fascinating one. Um,
Yeah, and there's the one article in there, whatever, supposedly about the molestation or child abuse was
right.
supposed to be the thing that comes with Danny in that as well.
Right. That's on the cover. Yeah. so that,
Right.
a
Yes.
bunch
And
of
that was a
yeah.
237 one from what I remember. Is that something they mentioned in
Right.
237?
Yeah, they mentioned that in
Nice.
room 237. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, for me, it's the greatest horror movie ever made, and I think I've thought that almost my
Now,
entire life.
small caveat though. Small caveat. You are the person. I don't know if caveats are a word, but you are the person who has yet to see many horror films that I do want to showcase to you. And I'm not saying you're wrong by
You're
saying that,
right.
but I'm just saying there are some horrors that you have not seen because I'm going to torture you with a bunch of
Yeah.
horrors. I agree with
Oh,
you.
great.
This is probably the best, but I'm just saying I got to
All
get you
right.
through the Friday the 13th series. I got to get you through
Oh,
Nightmare on Elm
well.
Street. I got to get you through all these, and all those came after this anyway.
Yeah.
And this is the best. I'm not discounting what you've said.
I'm glad to hear it from you as well, because that's that that's good. That helps my credibility a little bit. The reason I say that is because I feel like a lot of horror movies, it's interesting that we just watched Halloween, and I like that contrast. I liked watching Halloween and then going straight to this because, like, nothing against Halloween, but it feels like
Watch yourself.
it's a B movie.
Watch yourself.
It
Okay.
feels
All right.
it
All right.
feels it doesn't feel as, elegant, it doesn't feel as substantive, it doesn't feel like there was as much care put into it, just the complexity, just the level of craftsmanship, the artistry. I mean, you're talking about Stanley Kubrick, and it's not
But you
even
can't
Kubrick, it's
compare. But
Kubrick.
you
Exactly,
can't
you can't
compare
compare.
anything to Stanley Kubrick. So it's like
But that's
it's
my
an
point.
unfair comparison from the beginning. You
That's
can't go. You
exactly
can't
my
go
point,
if you
though.
if you if you go. The Shining is an A horror movie, and then that means that Halloween is a B horror movie. It means every horror movie that's ever been made is a B horror movie. Like it's like
Well,
there are
that's the
levels
way
to
I
like
see it, yeah.
Stanley's above an A. He's on his own thing. He's done his own thing. It's outside of the rankings because it would scale the rankings so much as if you had the smart kid in the class who got an A plus 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 and everybody else got like D's and C's. Like you can't
Yeah.
scale it. You have to scale the second smartest kid in the class got an A. So that's where we started from. And the other kid just a
Uh,
savant and he's over here. That's where the Shining's at.
But I've always loved about The Shining how Kubrick was able to subvert so many of the horror movie cliches, and I feel like that's something that sets it apart. And
True,
like
but
just
most of the other
yeah.
horror movie cliches didn't start to really happen until the 80s after, and yes, Halloween was the first to bring a bunch of the cliches, but he was filming this in 1979, and this is 1 year after, what he's filming of it is 1 year after Halloween, so those cliches weren't cemented as of yet, unless we're talking about 1950s cliches or whatever. Sorry,
Well,
I'm just
like
saying I'm putting up a little bit of for John Carpenter. Within our dick sucking of Kubrick, I'm putting a little bit for Carpenter here of just like, don't shit on him either. We
oh.
could bring on Stanley, but don't shit on Carpenter.
I mean, I'm only grabbing that one because we just happened to have watched it last
I know,
week.
I know, I
So
know.
so but like mostly all horror films use, dark and shadows. That's a pretty standard
Huge.
technique,
If we want
right?
to talk about the lighting
And
aspect of this movie, yeah, I have a whole rigmarole that I can
yeah,
go into the lighting of
I
this, and
mean
I love
that
it.
just right off the bat, that to me was genius. That you have an entire horror movie that's brightly lit, and yet how do you make it scary? And he does.
Yeah, and
So one of the many elements that separates it.
100%, and I think that's him as a director bringing, his style to a different genre and going, "I will not let the genre bend me to what the genre should supposedly have." After this point,
Mhm.
he'd done Barry Lyndon, and he was like, "Well, this is a natural lighting type of way." Now in The Shining, he's building the sets around the lighting, so he's not in every scene having to do a relight setup. He's going, "Okay, I'm gonna build a bar. Great. And now I'm going to build it where the bar glows. And I'm gonna build behind the bar where that glows as well." So he can move his camera around and not be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna film this over the shoulder. Now break for 2 hours as we fucking relight another scene." He would build the sets for them being lit in a way where he can move around and just get the coverage
Mhm.
and get the shots that he wanted to. And I think The Shining is the most natural type, perfect way of lighting and being able to have that done. And the fact that when I was a kid, I would watch this, number one, not knowing that, like, any of this was a set. I was just like, "Oh, it's a hotel." And then being able to, like, watch that later understanding lighting, color, temperature, and you get to feel the coldness. He got the perfect blue coming in through these windows where you're like, "It is winter outside." They're in a giant room in a hotel, and you don't question it. It's down to such perfection, and to bring it back to the point of what you're saying, this is a horror movie, and the only scenes that are lit horror-wise are when hallways are a little bit darker or when Shelley sees the skeletons, which is cut out of the European version, which he released it in America, had that scene that we talked about when you visited the Kubrick archives, had that for 1 week, brought people in, had them individually cut that ending sequence out and said, "Hey, cut from here, cut to here," release the rest of that in America, but Europe has seen a movie that is 25 minutes less than ours. It has none
Mm.
of, the psychologist speaking to Wendy at the beginning. It doesn't have Wendy running around. It doesn't have the, uh, what is it? The when Wendy sees all of the skeletons sitting around, like, he cut out anything that didn't have to do with the hotel, and specifically, those are the only sequences when speaking about lighting is like, okay, you made it a bit dark, and Wendy runs into the room and sees skeletons. And he's just like, all right, now I've seen it in front of an audience, I've showed it. He's like, silly, fuck it. All right, cut that out and get out the 25 minutes of extra guff that he kind of thought was in there. And
Yeah.
I like that aspect about him, just to bring that up for a second, where he had his version, which was his insulary version, and then after getting to release it and he didn't get to physically see how American audiences, reacted to that within the first week, because he fucking stayed in Europe and he never came back to America. But for some reason, after releasing it just for 1 week, he goes, "Cut the ending, get that out of there." Probably read some sort of weird review, or I don't know, was on the phone with somebody being like, "What do you feel in the audience? Oh, they didn't respond to this, or somebody said this. All right, cut that scene out." And then after that, fine, my European release is going to be 25 minutes less, and I'm gonna keep messing around with this to make it perfect, which showed that he really gave a shit, and he gave a shit about what audiences thought. And with A Clockwork, the way he pulled it, from England for, 20 years, maybe until he died, maybe it was 30 years, I don't even remember, like, he had a more thing about England or where he was that he cared more. I almost wanna see if you have anything to say about that aspect, because that's kind of the way that I've looked into it, of him going, I'm releasing this in America. Okay, now I have these thought processes. Sure, I'll cut this there, but over here where I'm living, I'm gonna make sure it's as good as it can be. Or, okay, A Clockwork is doing this type of thing, and it might be having some violence here. I don't want that to be happening. I'm going to insulate and not have this shown here. Do you have anything to say on that? I don't want to distract from our Shining conversation by bringing that up.
Yeah. By the way, that final scene that was cut out that I read the script and we talked about in the Kubrick Archive episode,
Right.
there's an AI recreation of that scene on YouTube that I watched,
I'm not.
and it's
I'm
very
not watching
crudely.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
very
watching that.
crudely done. It looked like it was done a number of years ago. AI technology has advanced much, much further now, but it gives you a sense of the rhythm and the pacing of the scene, and it takes the script and it has the AI voices and there's actors saying the
Do they have
lines.
the shots, because they've released, behind the scenes images of, or like original 35, like they
Right.
take those stills and try to have something happen to it?
Yeah, it looked like they were kind of like AI animations of what it close to
Versions
what it
of
would have
that.
looked like.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this, I thought that the scene just completely would ruin the ending of the movie. I think it
I
was
I I could
100% the
imagine it. I
right.
just don't want it to buy real estate in my brain where I actually
Yeah.
have these AI images of that nestled in my head, and then, like, he throws Danny the ball, and, ooh, like, I already have that in my head. I don't wanna have some
Yeah.
AI image of that in there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I think it was actually quite bad and kinda weird, the scene. It was a very awkward, very slow, kinda boring. They don't really say anything that you don't already know. And then the thing that is the biggest difference is how it changes the rhythm and the momentum of the ending of the film, because you go straight from Jack hard cut, Jack frozen, and now dolly into the photograph and then credits. And just the rhythm of that is just brilliant. And so you insert this hospital dialogue scene and it just completely breaks the rhythm. And it also takes out, this extra information. So the movie ends on this series of visuals and it creates this ambiguity and this mystery and this intrigue, and it sends you into the credits and you're like, whoa, what just happened? What is this movie about? And so the power of what he ended up with, I think, is like the perfect version.
Yeah, it had to me that scene when I read it, coincidentally, the same type of ending of the original Friday the 13th of like, oh, but then he's still there, still there, still there. And but it had this like she's in a hospital bed. A police officer comes up and they're talking about what happened. It's the Psycho scene of just like, hey, we're going to
Right.
explain what happened right here. So it had that
Yeah.
aspect. That's literally the ending scene of Friday the 13th that happened, which came out the same year as The Shining. So I think he very much I'm not saying he watched Friday the 13th and took it out. I'm saying he took it out for the reason that you're talking about, of going like, why are we going to put this fluff right here? We've got it. The cut needs to be made.
Yeah.
Jack's frozen. We've got the key hits from the piano. Move on to da, 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 with one of the greatest dolly zooms of all time. Only zooming towards the last minute, but keeping that focus perfect. Like, forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Calumet Baking Powder, the choice of quiet winter kitchens in large mountainside resorts with very long hallways. That red can with the proud chief is a reminder that this land remembers who's really always been here. Reach for the brand that honors tradition and never lets your pancakes collapse under historical pressure. Calumet keeps dough steady in a blizzard, keeps muffins from sinking when the past gets loud, and keeps cookies from cracking, even if your father does. Order online and use promo code Andrew and Greg at checkout to receive your complimentary Hedge Maze cookie cutter and vintage cardboard beer coaster that says, "Your money's no good here," which is fine, because this land was never purchased in the first place. Calumet Baking Powder, helping things rise on ground that probably shouldn't have been disturbed. Bake responsibly. And maybe stop talking to the pantry door.
So, do you want to jump into the
Yeah, what does Andrew
deeper
Andrew
stuff?
think?
Should
What does
we?
Andrew
Yeah.
think? Yeah, what does Andrew think? Let's go. Charles
Before, yeah.
Grady, Delbert Grady, how deep are we going? What are we gonna
Okay.
go here? What are we
Because
gonna go here?
we always wait like really deep in, almost to the very, very end, and then
Right.
I try
And
to
let's just
drop something at the very, very
let's
end.
just tell the
So,
audience where we're going with
yeah.
this. Is the last thing I'll say before we go deep. We are not going to finish this conversation in one episode.
Yeah.
And we've realized that. We've talked behind the scenes about this, going, there is no way in hell we can fit The Shining in 2 hours, but we're not gonna we decided we'll see how this goes, but we're not doing a part 1, part 2 of this. We might just revisit this every year and pick
We'll
up the
see.
conversation from where it was. We're going into this very open. But yes, having said disclaimer, you're not gonna get to the end of the 2 hours and be like, "They solved The Shining." That's not happening.
Okay, well, let's see.
So Andrew goes,
Let's
"Hold
see.
my beer. Hold my beer." Here we go.
Yeah, so yeah, we've already been talking for about an hour, so that's kind of crazy. I mean, time just flies. So, okay. You wanna hear some of my thoughts that because I don't know like how much, I know you love The Shining, but I feel like I've
I don't
really
think there's anything that you're gonna tell me that I haven't at least heard on a random blog or a random video, or watching 237, or watching the other guy you mentioned, or listening to
okay.
every Rob Ager fucking YouTube video and everything. Like, I've been a sponge. I've forgotten more about the theories of The Shining than I even know at
Okay.
this point. Like, I've heard and forgotten more things, but as you say them, I'll go like, "Yep, heard it, got it. Here you go. It's over here." If you bring out
Okay.
something brand new that I've never heard, and you're like, it's a metaphor for the queen bee on how ants attack a queen bee in Africa in the southern Sahara after October 31st, like, I'll be like, okay, that's the first one I haven't heard.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that you use bees there because the pattern on the carpet
Here
is
we
kind
go.
of like
Yeah, here we go.
like a
Honeycomb, honeycomb.
kind
There
of
it
like a
is.
bee, yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. All right, so let me start with my number one. I remember I told you this. You asked me like a few months ago. We started talking about The Shining, and I said I have some theories on The Shining that I've actually never heard anybody say before.
I thought you were talking about at the time the Native American aspect.
No, you asked me because you were intrigued and you were like, "Oh, we're not going to do The Shining for months. Like, just tell me now." And I did mention it to you, but then I think you forgot.
We'll see. Bring it up.
So, my biggest realization with the Shining is that I realized it's 2001: A Space Odyssey in reverse.
Now I
You
remember
remember
you
that I
saying
said that
this.
to you?
Yes. Now I remember
Yeah.
you saying this. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I realized this a little while ago when I was watching The Shining, and I just watched it on repeat, and I'm just like trying to figure out the movie. And it is mentioned briefly in the Mastermind's essay. He does allude to that. He talks about The Shining being like a movie that could be seen in reverse and things like that. Like there's this forwards backwards element in The
Yeah, but
Shining.
he talks about that, just to point out, he talks about that within the context of its own movie being watched in reverse, not within 2001 from what I remember of that,
Yeah.
because 231 talks about that as well. Take the movie The Shining, watch it back to back, half opacity it, look it over. I don't think this mastermind guy without the vowels or whatever the fuck mentioned the connection to
Yeah.
2001 in reverse when it comes to The Shining.
Right. In the Room 237 documentary, they talk about how The Shining can be viewed backwards and they
Right.
play it over itself. So
Right,
you
yeah.
see it overlaid forwards and backwards over itself,
Right.
which is an interesting experiment. And that actually will lead to something else I want to talk about if you want to talk about that aspect.
I do. I
But
have a
let's
lot to
stick
say
with,
about that as well. Let's
okay,
stick with
yeah.
what you're talking about. But
Let's
the only
stick with
reason I interrupted
2001.
was to point out the fact that I don't think this mastermind guy, because I watched all of what he had to say about it, I don't think he mentioned connections between 2001, but I did not see him mentioning connections
A
to
lot.
2001 when it talks about being in reverse to The Shining. I did not see or
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, so my idea is that instead of taking The Shining and reversing it and playing it over itself, somebody should take The Shining and reverse it and play it over 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I like how you say
Play the
somebody. I like how you say somebody.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. Like you're
Somebody needs
bidding
to
for
go
other
do
people
that.
to do your work.
Yeah.
Like just do it
Well,
yourself.
I was going to do it this week, and then, I'm busy, so
Things
I got
happen.
other things.
Hazel, blame
Yeah,
it on Hazel and Labubus. It was. I'm married and I don't have time.
yeah. But
All right,
if
I'll
we
do it
talk
for
about The
you,
Shining
but I'll have to
again,
I'll have to
yeah.
say, do I have to then at that point, because there are different run times if you do that? Does that mean I speed up or slow down one run time to match the other run time and then do it?
Okay, let's see how long
Now
2001
he's
is. I
Googling
think
and finding about like
okay,
it's only 90
2001 is
seconds off.
229.
Okay.
The
And The Shining
Shining
is
is
exactly
223.
229.
223. Okay, so they're pretty close.
But that's the American version, right? So we obviously want to do it to that because it's longer than the European version. So we're already making one consultation
By
here.
the way, are there still two different versions of The Shining? Like if I go to Europe and I rent The Shining, is it a different version?
No, I'm sure they can get the American version, but it is
Okay.
always been officially released there as like 25 minutes shorter.
Okay. So the runtimes are pretty similar to 2001 and The Shining. So I think that you could relatively, it might not be a one-to-one to the minute,
Right,
perfect correlation, but
right.
when you look at the story of those two films, they are the inverse of each other. That you have 2001 is a story of evolution, of the evolution of consciousness. the astronaut ends up transforming into this star child at the end of the film, right? So he evolves to the next stage
Right.
of human evolution. Okay, then in The Shining, it's the exact opposite. It's a de-evolution. You have Jack, who's becoming more animalistic. He's losing his consciousness. And he ends up at the end of the film essentially being transported into a two-dimensional photograph. So this is another element that I wanted to bring up that I guess is a kind of they all kind of connect together. That's another thing that I thought about with The Shining that I don't think people talk about enough, which is that the horror of The Shining is about going from the third dimension to the second dimension. You're actually traveling in the wrong direction. 2001 is about going to the next dimension, meeting God or aliens or like fifth dimensional beings, like in Interstellar. You're in the fifth dimensional bookcase.
Right.
And you can sort of transcend space and time, right? And that's like this forward momentum of human consciousness. And then The Shining shows the opposite. The Shining is he devolves. He goes from a three-dimensional human being and he ends as a two-dimensional photograph in black and white on a wall. And so he's essentially flattened. He's taken from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions, and he's trapped. He's imprisoned on a wall.
So in reverse, he's a monkey. You're basically saying he's a monkey on the monolith is what you're trying to say if you reverse the two films. You're taking Jack at the end of The Shining being in two-dimensional image, and you're going, that being the ending of The Shining is the beginning of 2001 where you're a monkey on the monolith. Is that the corollary connection if you reverse one of the two films and mush them together?
Somewhat, yeah. And when you look at Jack at the end, he starts barking, he starts screaming, bellowing. Exactly. He loses the ability to even form words. He stops becoming a human being. He turns into an animal.
He's holding an axe. He's holding an axe, which is the metaphor for the bone.
The bone. That's right. So he turns
that he was going to murder his own child with, which in 2001 you murdered the other monkeys with, which is your own brethren or whatever, your own species, not your specific kin, but I get where you're going.
Exactly. Jack becomes an ape at the end of 2001 with a bone at the
So
end
is
of The
Shelley
Shining.
Howe? Where
Sorry,
are we
did
at
I
the
say
minute?
at the end of 2001? Jack becomes an ape at the beginning of 2001.
There's no pickups
the
in
bone
2.0. You leave
at
it
the
in.
end
You have
of
to
The
leave in.
Shining,
You
yeah.
have to leave in your sorries. You have to leave in your sorries.
Yeah,
It's
whatever.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So, all right,
So,
got
yeah,
it. I see where
exactly.
you're going to the beginning to
Yeah.
end. I get it. Now, let's
That's
contend
right.
with the middle because the 2001 is not built in like a 3-act structure thing where you can just go, okay, it's like this. Are you conceding the fact that those puzzle pieces don't fit perfectly and we're just looking at a aspect here where we can say there might be certain themes or aspects to being one reversed over the other and there's just themes there?
Well, I don't know that because I want to see the two films played over each other. I want to see how they would line up.
So basically what you're saying is you didn't do your homework prior to getting on this podcast.
No, not at all. This is incredibly half-assed podcast. This is just me. This is just
it's
me.
It's coming. Well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna swap them. I'm gonna retime it. And I will be texting you and questioning you about which should be the MGM logo at the beginning of 2001. Where should we make the decision making point? Because anybody who makes a Blu-ray or does whatever, they're making a point on where to stop and start this by frames. And we're gonna figure out exactly where that is, that we're okay with it. And I'm gonna reverse those and half opacity them, and we're gonna have that.
Yeah, I want to see that. I've always been curious to do that. I've just never actually sat down and done it. Because my theory is that if you do that, you will start noticing more connections than you and I would be able to make just in this
Yeah,
conversation.
and I'll say if you start to do that, the thing is you become crazy, and I think you become crazy, and this is where I wanna have a little bit of it, but I don't wanna, like, shut you down and talking about your anything you wanna talk about here, but I wanna talk about the people who reverse The Shining back over on top of each other and look at it and start drawing connections over it. You're insane. And I wanna kinda have that on record for I'm let me go into a little bit of the craziness, and I get it, but when you have somebody who meticulously shoots things very Andrew, what's the word that I used?
Symmetrically.
Very symmetrically, right? If you have a movie that's shot very symmetrically, and the guy throughout it shoots it very symmetrically, and then you reverse that, a great thing that our human brains do is we look for connections. And we look for connections very deeply, and if we want to look for them, we will find them. And we could talk about the whole 47 and talk about like, we have so much to go into, but the
Ooh.
reverse aspect of this, when they go, "At this moment, this thing happens," it's really sure, it's great, it's all super interesting to dive into that. My thought process goes back to Kubrick did never took an aspect of this movie, rolled out the film, did it twice, overlaid it on itself in 35 millimeter, played it back, and watched it back perfectly. If every shot was like every shot in this movie is timed out to 25.3 frames, and then it cut, and had this whole thing to it that did something perfect. I go, great, you have a great argument. But the fact of going like this one shot that was framed perfectly towards the end matches up with this other frame. It's like, dude, he did perfectly framed shots throughout the entire film, throughout the entirety of this. So of course,
Well,
coincidentally, there's going to be ones that overlay. Okay, I could tell you want to get in on this and go, yeah, Kubrick was insane. He did this as well. Last thing I'll say, just to throw in here,
yeah.
because many people go, he's perfect. Everything he did was so perfect. Wait, did he want to have the microphone pop that was in the lavalier microphone of Jack going, hi, babe? Did he want to have, not talking about the helicopter shot when it was 4:3, but when it was in 16:9, the helicopter blades are still above and you can still see them looking at the shot of the Overlook Hotel. Was he that perfect where he sat there going, I need helicopter blades or a metaphor for something? It's like, it's okay that there are things within the film that are not absolutely perfectly meant to be there by the filmmaker. And there are always those, I don't want to say mistakes, they're just those things that happen in film. And I'm not talking almost to you right now. I'm talking to certain people who build up a mythology of a godlike perspective of this. And I like the bumps and scrapes that are there, even inside of a Stanley Kubrick film.
Yeah, you're a chaos guy. So you like knowing that it's not 100% perfect, right? There's little things wrong with it that he didn't intend.
Well, I just think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable in
Yeah.
a Fincher movie. Like, there's no director who literally sits there and goes, "That's it. I've made something so perfect. It's absolutely perfect, and go fuck yourself."
Um, okay, let's go back to 2001 just to strengthen my argument because I really
Let's
believe this. That
on the
I really
episode of The
think that
Shining, let's talk about 2001. Let's do it.
well, no, in relation to The Shining, because I really believe it's a key to unlocking The Shining. This is why it's so important, is because so why okay, so why does that matter? It's because Kubrick created a dual piece of art. This is not a single film. This is a mirror piece of art. It's two films that mirror each other. And the way that I have come to think about it is that you actually can't really interpret one without the other.
So you're saying the boring sandwich scene in 2001 is Danny, and the sandwich cuts in half, and there's something within the two of those that also mirrors itself, but that scene comes towards the beginning of the movie, so if we reverse it, the sandwiches scenes are on the opposite sides of each other.
Okay, so ready? So The Shining opens with the shot of an island, right? The camera's floating over this little island in the middle of the lake.
And then it moves. It Dutch angles to the right. Where's that? Is that this is
That's
perfectly
right.
related to 2001? Here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening for the first time.
In the Mastermind essay, he references a Navajo origin myth that says that paradise is represented as an island in the middle of a lake. Now, this is a Native American myth in a movie about Native Americans. So Kubrick opens the film with an image of essentially the next realm of heaven or paradise or the fifth dimension or whatever you want to call it. It's this otherworldly realm. It's perfection. You know, you have the perfect symmetry of the lake with the sky, right? The earth literally mirrors,
And this relates to the
right?
slit scan sequence. This relates to the slit scan sequence. Is that where we're going to here?
Yeah, it actually does. Well, first of all, The Shining opens essentially you're in heaven, right? And 2001 ends with the Star Child essentially ascending to the next level of consciousness. Okay, so The Shining opens where you basically start at the next level of consciousness. You're in this
Is
sort of
that heaven?
spiritual.
Is that opening shot? Is that opening shot really heaven though, or are we reaching there? Because that opening shot sounds very Doom to me when we go da da
Well,
da.
think about the room, you know, that island in the lake could be like the room where Dave Bowman is kept.
We don't need to bring James Franco into this conversation, okay?
What is that?
The Room, the movie The
Oh, the
Room, and then
room,
James
yeah.
Franco, yeah, The Room.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
I'm
could be,
joking,
right? So
obviously
that
joking.
island, you could think of that island as if like that's the room where Dave Bowman is
Okay,
kept,
okay,
essentially,
and we're
right?
just flying over that really
And
quickly,
we're
as we've
yes, and
done
we're
with
flying over
many
that really
images at
quickly.
the end of 2001. Okay, okay, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Go.
Okay. And then what does the camera do in the opening scene of The Shining? It goes above the landscape, right? It shows all of these
It looks
landscapes
down
you're
on the
flying over.
Yeah, it looks down on the yellow car, which was not the
That's
same
right.
color car that King wanted, because we haven't got to talk about that yet, which is why we're gonna do 10 episodes on the goddamn Shining.
And what happens at the end of 2001 during the Stargate sequence? The camera floats over these landscapes that are all colored, you know, in hallucinatory colors, right? But the camera, the angle of the camera, the sequence is essentially the same. You essentially have the Stargate sequence at the opening of The Shining, where the camera is moving over these mountain ranges. And that's a part of the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay, so the traveling to the Overlook mirrors the Stargate sequence.
And also because he decided to give, Ridley Scott these, shots to be able to be used in Blade Runner. We're saying there's also a connection there as well. Do you know that story?
I think I've heard that, yeah.
Yes. So also he was so sacred in the fact of in The Shining that he balanced the blades to get these perfect great shots, and then Ridley goes, "Hey, can I use some of the extra footage that you haven't used for the ending
Mm,
of Blade Runner?" Okay, yeah,
of
you could do
course.
that because it's a great tie to 2001. He was not sacred enough not to give them to Ridley. Okay, I get where you're going there. I'm not gonna I won't fight it
Right?
because I want to see where it goes.
But that's a really interesting connection. The fact that The Shining opens with a sequence that parallels the ending of 2001, the Stargate sequence, and then the ending of The Shining, Jack turning into this, you know, animalistic monkey-like killing machine holding a big stick, you know, and trying to kill and all he has is murder on his mind. And then 2001 opens with a monkey taking a big stick and murdering, you know, another creature. I mean, anyway, so and then the idea of the evolution, right? And this is why I say it's a key to actually unlocking the meaning of the film. Because I think what The Shining is really about is it's about somebody who's losing their mind and they're devolving, you know, they're instead of evolving, they're going backwards. So it's a movie about traveling backwards. And that's why the film itself is made in reverse. And notice how the opening credits of The Shining scroll, you know, like end credits. And
Right.
if you were
Yeah.
to reverse the movie, they would scroll in the direction as if the movie's over. So if you reverse The Shining, it ends with proper end credits that are scrolling down the screen.
I give you that. Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
So he designed it this way on purpose, I think, is as essentially a movie that's designed in reverse. And why would you design a movie in reverse? You know,
So
he's
the
using
ending scene in that way is the Cameron Crowe, the car is riding off into the sunset, and it's a happy ending as the credits roll
yeah.
in a Good Will Hunting type way when he goes like, I gotta go see about a girl. So the ending of the movie is here's the yellow car moving away into happiness as the credits roll, even though it has scary music over it. The visuals of it are this is the winning ending of this film.
Yeah, it's actually very sad because I did that as an experiment this week as I watched just The Shining by itself in reverse. I didn't put 2001 over it, but I just watched The Shining movie in reverse.
So, meaning you
And when you
downloaded it, you press, like, J, and you just rewound
yeah.
and
Yeah.
got it. Oh, I always thought you were insane. It's cool. It's cool to know it.
And
I like the solidness of knowing that you're insane.
yeah,
It's good.
yeah. When you do that, the story actually it makes it very sad because you realize it's about Jack getting better, you know, and it just makes the actual real story just so much more sad because the story is one where, you know, he's trapped. He's trapped in his own mind. He's trapped in his own emotion. You know, he's angry, like we said, he's angry, he's resentful, and he can't get out. And it's like he's stuck. And so he's this perfect victim. He's this like perfect almost like a weapon who's waiting to be used. He's incredibly persuadable, you know, because his mind is weak. And so the hotel preys on him and they use him as this instrument, right? Kill your family
'Cause he wants alcohol. That's he
because he wants alcohol. Yeah.
well, he does. I mean, that's the whole Stephen King aspect that he did bring over into this film very much. This is a recovering alcoholic who's wanted alcohol and is dying for it. He goes, "I give my soul for a glass of beer." And what happens at
Right.
that specific moment in time is the hotel finally presents itself to him. "What do you need, Mr. Torrance?"
Yeah. And did you notice that the red lapels on Lloyd's tuxedo look an awful lot like devil horns?
Hold on. If we wanna start talking about color theory right now within this film, I could go nuts
Uh,
on you with color theory in this movie because that's,
yeah.
I'm normally not one of the color theory people, but if you want me to do a small rant on this, so who can s maybe I get the backwards forwards thing, sure, okay.
Yeah, okay, you got it.
I get it.
Yeah, I'd like to delve into it more.
Take the floor. Take the floor. I wanna hear what
No,
you
that's
have to
it.
say about it.
No,
No,
that's it. I
wait.
just mean that that's an element that I would like to see other me and other people delve into more. I think you and I can do that in future episodes. We can take 2001, we can flip it and reverse it and watch it in different ways and look for different connections. We can do that. I don't have a giant list. I just wanted to set my premise, which is what I said. I think it's very compelling and convincing. And now I'd like to hear what you have to say.
No, no, I have a lot of homework to do after this. I'm not only gonna reverse The Shining, we're gonna talk about which frames we should reverse it from, but now I've gotta reverse and retime 2001 to The Shining.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, and this is why
All
every
right.
year we're gonna have a new conversation about The Shining. One episode will be,
Okay.
"What's the reverse of 2001 versus the reverse of The Shining?" We're gonna have that. We're gonna I don't think anyone
Yeah.
else has reversed 2001 and The Shining and retimed them to match up to wherever we decide to rush them, because it's gonna be like, is it the last frame before the credits? Is it here? Like, decisions have to be made, like people going, "Hey, it's The Wizard of Oz on the 3rd Lion's Roar, then put on Dark Side of the fucking Moon." Like, we're gonna have to make decisions to
Right.
the frame where that happens and the retime, because you're talking about retiming. There's
I just realized though that 2001 has a lengthy overture. It's just a black screen. So you could probably remove that at the beginning and so
we're
I think the
already
actual
yeah, we're
runtime of 2001 probably matches The Shining closer than you think.
Okay.
I bet the two overlay on each other really well, actually. I bet there's
Okay.
not that much of a runtime difference. Yeah.
Okay. You might be right.
Let's
You
try
might
it,
you
Leo.
might be
Let's
right.
try
You
it.
might be right. And what about the intermission? What about the intermission? If we cut that out too, what's happening
Oh,
here?
that's a
Like the
great.
intermission,
There
what is
you.
that layover?
That's a great question.
There's a lot to do. I
Yep.
mean, if
A lot of work to do.
I don't know any stories of like assistant editors sitting there with Stanley going, Stanley, why are you pulling out the 70 millimeter film of 2001 or 68 millimeter film and dumbing that down to a 35 millimeter print so we can sit here and lay that over The Shining that you're doing right now, but backwards and upside down to make sure that the time code's met. But anyway.
This episode is brought to you by Red Rum, the only premium Caribbean spirit that tastes even better when whispered backwards in a spooky hallway. Distilled with notes of vanilla, oak, and just a hint of bash your brains in. Red Rum pairs perfectly with long winters, creepy bartenders who know too much, and ignoring your child's psychic warnings. Whether you're relaxing by a roaring fire or chasing your loved ones through a hedge maze with an axe, Red Rum gives you that warm, smooth burn that says, it's okay you dislocated your son's arm, that was 3 goddamn years ago. Order online and use promo code Andrew and Greg at checkout, and you'll receive a complimentary bear costume accessory kit, perfect for, let's say, private events in luxury hotel bedrooms. Red Rum, all work and no play makes for a delightful evening. Drink responsibly. And remember, if the bartender says your money's no good here, that's because your soul is the currency.
You want to talk about color?
All right, so we got covered there. I took a few notes when I was on the train watching. So Wendy in the opening, she's wearing red and blue. I sent you the thing of Raggedy Ann and Andy, the
Right,
aspect
yeah.
of that. Jack, he's got the green tie, brown jacket while he's driving. Then he's also driving in the car. So she's got this red and blue theme going with her. He's got this green tie and then the brown jacket when he's driving in the car. Ending of the film, she's wearing a green shirt and brown overalls. Jack is now wearing red and blue jeans. They're transfixed and transposed throughout the film within color theory of what they are wearing.
They flip-flop.
They flip-flop throughout the film.
that's
They
interesting,
flip-flop
yes.
throughout the film.
Okay.
Now, when he's busting through the door with the axe, which is just very cool that he had like practiced as a fireman, so they had to like kick down like so many goddamn doors to be able to do this over and over. She's now wearing a full blue bathrobe over her entire body, but she hasn't showered because you can see that she's still wearing her turtleneck underneath it, and she's still wearing the shirt that she had, the green shirt that she had
Right.
below that at that time.
I remember
but-
this, yeah.
Right. Now, when Jack was comforting Danny, he was wearing that same blue bathrobe. You know, he's going, I'd never hurt you. And he's sitting there, and there's that light coming through the window. That's the invisible window. We haven't even been able to talk about spatial
Right.
references as of yet to this film, which I have a lot to say on that. I've got a lot of point at crazy people. I've got a lot of things to say about that, about set design and whatnot. So there's a lot there. But I jumped over. All right. So when they visit the Overlook together, they're dressed in the same brownish muted colors. Him and Wendy, they're connected at that point when they're visiting there. We could have a really good time in this room, hun. The two of them, color-wise, are very much the same. Now, when he drinks for the first time, it's the first time he's wearing his red jacket. Lloyd, bright red. You know, what can I get for you, Mr. Torrance? Like that whole aspect is in there. Now, Danny ends up, as he starts becoming a little bit crazier, he starts wearing that red sweater. There's the red bathroom. There's red coming from the elevators. The snow cat is red. All of this aspects is bleeding into this blood red theme throughout the film. And this is the one thing that I really do like about 237, where they bring up the fact of Kubrick being an absolute prick. And he is in many ways to certain people that he does not get along with. And Spielberg is a very much you can get along with type guy, but King and him were butting heads hugely on this, and this is the 1, 2, 3, 7 thing that I'm like, it's undeniable.
Okay.
The color scheme of what Kubrick wanted to get into within his thing and him having his own vision, he wrote in an entire sequence to the film to show that, hey, King, this is my middle finger to you. And this is what 237 got and did really well. The opening of the movie was, or the opening of the book was written that they're driving there in a red bug. And Kubrick is like, no, that's not going to fit the theme of what I'm going for. It was just one of the things. But to show specifically, I'm going to put this in my movie to say, fuck you, motherfucker, I'm done with you. He decided to go, no, the opening, they're going to drive in a yellow bug. But I'm writing in a scene that's not in the book, where Halloran drives down the snowy path. He's on his way there. And I'm going to write in a scene that's not in the novel, where a tractor trailer has turned over and it's smashed a bug that's underneath the thing, and that's a red bug. And he goes, no, fuck your shit. Your movie is done. And that's what 231 nailed, is that Kubrick was going, listen, man, I took your source material, and here's my inside joke, middle finger, to tell you to go fuck yourself. And that's why King has hated him for such a long period of time, where he goes, I'm even going to remake this in a TV series that's, I'm not even going to say if it's good or bad. I'm not going to talk about that. I really love Stevie King. I like the guy so much. I think he came up with so much great shit. I think the reason that he doesn't like this is because um, Stanley took this in a different direction that he wanted to go. I think Stephen King wanted to go after the what is it like to see a family torn apart, and what is it like to see alcoholism, and that's what he wanted to explore within this. And he would have been okay if Stanley wasn't a 2001 kind of Andrew prick. I mean, the year 2001, not a 2001. I think the two of them were so creative in their own ways, and they met over a very specific project, but they felt so many different things about that, and they weren't able to light up the dark. They weren't able to find a way to go, hey, man, I get this about you. You get this about me. We're going to be cool, because they both kind of had their butting heads type thing. They're those two, weird elk animals that just do this. And I think when they stopped talking, when King finally saw this, after they stopped talking, he finally saw this, and he saw that scene from this. That was the line of demarcation of like, oh, you just gave me a middle finger, but you did it within the movie that you have my rights to do, and you told me go fuck yourself within your art form. And I think that was such a give me the word, man. Give me the word. It's a betrayal. It's a like
Yeah.
a demeaning aspect of like, I'm pulling your pants down in front of other people, but they won't know, but the insiders will. Like, he was like, man, couldn't you just
Yeah.
tell me to my face? It was one of those. And he goes, no, I'm going to tell it to you in my art. I don't respect you right now. And that's the way
Mm.
King took that.
So you believe the red bug, that was put there on purpose by Kubrick. That was deliberate.
I 100% believe that he changed, because in the
Okay.
opening of the novel, it specifically talks about a red bug and they're driving there with
Yeah,
it.
okay.
And he changed
Okay.
that to
So that you
yellow,
believe.
and then he made up a scene later in the film to
Mhm.
showcase that a tractor trailer has landed on a red bug. Meaning,
Right. Right.
I've taken your novel and go fuck yourself. 2 middle fingers up to you. This is
Right.
my story now. And that's where I'm saying that King finally went, oh, no, no, no. Okay, fuck you.
Yeah.
I will never say a nice thing about you. It'll take me 30 years. I'm going to make my own mini TV series out of this. Like, it was that red bug being in that scene that is not in the novel, because there's a whole thing in the novel where like Halloran does have a hard time getting there, and he like crashes his own car, and there's reports of like many roadblocks, but there is no scene that says a tractor trailer got turned over and crushed a red bug, and a red bug is in the opening scene of the fucking Shining novel. That was a
Yeah.
very much middle finger specific note to Stephen King in my movie that is so timed out perfectly, where I have a time code that's so perfect for everything, but I've got enough time to put this one scene in here for you to go, you know what, bro? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. I did read at the Kubrick archive when I visited there, I told you this, that I did read Kubrick wrote stupid as a note on the Shining manuscript multiple times. There were multiple passages where he just highlighted and he would just write stupid, or he'd write cut this out, where he basically took it as a blueprint, and then he thought, now I'm just going to change whatever I want because there's things that I like and there's things I don't like.
And it's hard to
Yeah.
be friends with somebody who looks at your work and goes, stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's very harsh. It's not a nice way. And it's saying that's what he feels on the inside because he's writing those to himself. So if
Right.
his inside
Just quick.
feeling of this other guy's work is stupid, 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 it's
Right.
going to come out eventually. It's like there's no
Yeah.
respect there besides probably the respect if he goes, wow, a guy and his wife and his kid being secluded in a place, and then the guy turns against them? Okay, that's cool. And then he looks at all the details and goes, "Stupid, stupid, stupid." Like, I mean, you can't you can't start a good relationship from that. If I saw all of your short films in film school and I was like, "Stupid, stupid, stupid," it's very difficult to start from anywhere. You have to have a little bit of respect.
Yeah, I think that he liked the story that King had created, but I think there were aspects that he didn't like, and yeah, I don't know. It is a fact. That's kind of almost like a podcast unto itself because
Right.
just the relationship between those two guys. It's like these two geniuses, and they both had such an impact on the culture, and yet when they came together to collaborate, they butted heads and they kind of famously hated each other for the rest of their lives. I don't know if Kubrick really hated King per se. I don't Kubrick was kind of a quiet type. He didn't really talk about that, but of course King has talked about his frustrations with Kubrick and with the Shining adaptation. Um I did notice you said something about Wendy's clothes, and I actually did notice something. I'll give Hazel credit for this because Hazel noticed this. We were watching it together, and Hazel said, "Doesn't she kind of look like a Native American the way they dress her, Wendy?" And I started noticing over the course of the film, she's dressed in these boots with, fur on them, right? Like almost like Ugg boots, and she has a lot of like very sort of plain dresses, and she has a lot of Native American colors that she wears, and then her hair is black, and it's like tied in these little braids, like you see a lot of Native American women with. And as the movie went, I started thinking that more and more, and I thought, that's actually interesting that Kubrick, he kind of associates Wendy with the Native Americans,
Yes.
and it's like then when Jack is trying to kill her at the end, it does feel like that's Kubrick's recreation of the white man slaughtering the Native Americans.
That is the theory about The Shining that was not in the book that Kubrick put in that makes the most sense. There's the Native American theories throughout this. There's the Holocaust theories. There's the sexual abuse, Tony with the bear. There's the faking of the moon landing. All these theories that again, this is why we're not going to have one podcast that talks about all of them. But the one that you're bringing up there, the Native American thread that Kubrick put into this, which is not in the novel in any way whatsoever, is the one theory that has the absolute most credence, that makes the most amount of sense, that I think Kubrick very much put in there. And I go, yep, that's the theme that he's very much, they had to repel a bunch of Indian attacks when they were building here. Like all of that, the themes of it, the lodge, everything, the way that things look, the chanting throughout it, like everything. That the Native American aspect of that is the one that I go, yeah, that's undeniably something Kubrick went out of his way to put within this film. 100% agreement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's cool. It's cool. It's cool to see that Hazel saw that aspect, and she saw it through fashion. That's interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. She loves room 237. That's what she said. I said earlier that I thought she connected to the domestic kind of relationship aspect, which I think she does. But when I asked her about it, she said, well, the movie's just so interesting with all the themes. She's like, it's about the creation of America. She said the hotel basically is America. She's like, the hotel represents America. This is the land in which this slaughter happened. It's like they built something big and beautiful and expensive and fancy on top of the blood, on top of the burial ground. So
Yeah.
Hazel said, she basically feels like the hotel is America itself. And she just thought it was fascinating. She comes from China, so she's like looking at America more as an outsider.
Did she come up with that metaphor on her own? Like, what?
No,
Why
no,
would
we had
she?
already watched the Room 237 documentary, so she
Got it.
knew
Okay.
that.
Got it.
But then when we watched the film this most recent time, now this is what happens is when
She got
somebody
a
says, "Oh,
she got a
I
rewatch after
yeah,
seeing, hey, maybe look at this from a different perspective. I was wondering if she's a savant, if she's
exactly."
insane. No, she
No,
watched
well,
237, then rewatched it and goes, oh, now it's my second watch of this film, I'm paying more attention. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm thinking about the themes. Got it. Now, yes.
right,
Okay.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
welcome to the club, Hazel. The third time you watch it, you might be seeing
That's right.
Holocaust, Adler typewriters, and sexual abuse with Tony and the Bear, and faking the Apollo moon landings. Like, welcome to
Right,
the club,
yeah.
honey.
This episode is brought to you by Calumet Baking Powder, the choice of quiet winter kitchens in large mountainside resorts with very long hallways. That red can with the proud chief is a reminder that this land remembers who's really always been here. Reach for the brand that honors tradition and never lets your pancakes collapse under historical pressure. Calumet keeps dough steady in a blizzard, keeps muffins from sinking when the past gets loud, and keeps cookies from cracking, even if your father does. Order online and use promo code Andrew and Greg at checkout to receive your complimentary Hedge Maze cookie cutter and vintage cardboard beer coaster that says, your money's no good here, which is fine, because this land was never purchased in the first place. Calumet Baking Powder, helping things rise on ground that probably shouldn't have been disturbed. Bake responsibly. And maybe stop talking to the pantry door.
Let me talk about I have another contribution that I believe is an original contribution that I've never heard before, and I really
Wow, here
wanted
we
to
go.
say this. Yeah.
Ladies and
So,
gentlemen,
my
Andrew has the
yeah.
floor.
My first one was that The Shining and 2001 are essentially the same story in reverse, and that helps as a key to unlock the film. This one that I'm about to say goes a little bit deeper, and it's a little bit more ambiguous, but I think it's really, really fascinating. So in the Room 237 documentary, they talk about how Room 237 could be a symbol for the moon. It's the moon room because the moon
Right.
is 237,000 miles
7,000,
from
yeah.
the
So
Earth.
you're now going to the faking the Apollo 11. This is within the pantheon of this.
Yes and no. I'm connecting it to the moon room.
237,000 miles away. This whole thing. This. Okay. So you're gonna bring
I'm
this somewhere different. Okay.
Yes, I am. I'm going to connect
Okay.
it to the
Okay.
moon, but not in connection to the moon landings, to the Apollo 11. Of course, Danny has the Apollo 11 sweater.
Right.
And so you actually have, and then he actually stands up, and there's like a little launch pad with cars, and he actually
Right.
stands up. So you're literally seeing like a rocket take off.
And that launch pad looks very. Yeah. Okay.
So
So we've got that.
that's
So you're saying we're not
fascinating.
going
So
there. We're not going there.
no. I'm just repeating, but the moon room element to me is fascinating because I agree with what was said in the Room 237 documentary that the letters are arranged in a way where it spells moon room. You can rearrange the letters. And so when I
Right.
saw that, I remember I
we can
read
both see
that.
that through the same eyes of crazy. We can both get where that is. Yes, I understand. I'm
But
there.
it's an important aspect to the movie that the movie has a moon room. Okay.
Okay.
So if the hotel has a moon room, what I have noticed is that it also has a sunroom. And this is something that I've never heard anybody talk about, is there's
I
not
haven't heard
just a
this.
moon room.
Hold on.
That's
Let me
right.
let me get ready. Let me get ready for this one. I'm putting on my crazy hat. Hold on. Get my because I already need to make a jump. We've got a moon room because the next thing that you're gonna say is based upon the fact that the red key hanging out the door does say moon room. We have to at least take that and go, okay, so
Right.
we're already 90% of people are not in this conversation. We're already talking to the 10% of crazies who say yes, moonroom. Now we're blowing them out of the water. We're going if there's a moonroom. Here we go.
But by the
can't
way, I
wait.
mean, I just don't understand anybody who says that's not a moon room. You literally have the Apollo 11 rocket on Danny's sweater go to the room, and the room is 237,000 miles, and the letters on the entrance to the room spell out moon room. So to me, it's like if you don't want to acknowledge that that's a moon room, you're just being deliberately difficult. You're just like you just don't want to see it. You're just like refusing.
You're saying that what Andy Dufresne would say is you're being obtuse.
Yeah, I would say to those people, you really need to
Did you
just
not get that
like,
reference? Come on, did you not get that
yeah, I
reference?
got that. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, I had to call attention because I think it was pretty clever. I think I was
Yeah,
being
I
pretty
got that.
clever right there. Got it. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, so this is for
at
the
least
rest
for
of the
the
people who are listening to this who are not obtuse. Okay, right now, the rest of you obtuse people can just leave the room right now. We're talking to the non-obtuse people. This is where we're going right now.
so we can acknowledge that there is a moon room. Okay.
Let's do that. For the sake of the rest of this conversation, there is a fucking moon. How dare you not think there's a moon room? Of course there's a moon room.
Exactly.
Danny's got the sweater. We saw the sweater. He stood up from the triangular or the stop sign type thing. It looks just like the launching pad. He moved towards. I
Exactly.
get it.
There's
He moved.
tiny
He
little
got in.
cars. Exactly. Yeah,
Anyone who
exactly.
does not get this,
Right. They're
okay?
obtuse. Okay.
This is not for you. You're obtuse. Moving on. I want to hear about the
Okay,
sunroom.
so there's also a room in this hotel called the Gold Ball Room,
I hope they know about that. I mean, at least.
right? The gold ball. The gold ball is the sun.
Okay, got it.
So the
Okay,
gold
you just got
ball.
me. Oh, you got me on that one. Okay, you tricked me. Got it.
So the
Got it.
gold ball room is the sunroom.
That was good. I thought they were just talking
Okay.
about my balls, but I got it. I get it
So
now.
so those two rooms are connected. Room 237 and the gold ballroom. Those are the sunroom and the moon room. Okay. Now,
I'm with you.
in the mastermind's essay, the thing that got me at the very beginning when I first read this essay when I was in my 20s, the piece of information that hooked me in and made me go, okay, I want to read the rest of this because this is fascinating. It was this little piece of information. Here it is. The pattern on the carpet in the gold room is the Mayan symbol for the color yellow, which is also associated with the sun. So there's literally a symbol on the floor that says that this is the sun room. Okay. Now I looked this up just to make sure because I'm like, let me like really double check
Because you
that because
got it. You
that
got to do
sounds
the
like,
research. You got to do
I
the
mean,
research.
that sounds
Got to do the
fascinating, right? So
research.
it's like you're telling me that a movie director said, I want the pattern on the carpet of my gold room to be the Mayan symbol for the color yellow, for the name of the room to connect, yellow gold to connect to the name of the room. Now, what are the odds?
Are you not also remembering the fact that he specifically said that he wanted the car at the beginning of this movie to be yellow.
He'll be
He
yellow.
fought for that, and he pissed off Stephen King to make sure that that bug that they were driving was yellow. This is, I'm saying, it's
Exactly.
adding to your argument. It's adding to your thing.
And did you know that the real road where they shot that opening scene
Was on the yellow
actual
brick road? Was it the yellow brick road? Was it the yellow brick road?
The road is called Going to the Sun Road.
Fuck you.
And the mountains, the real mountains, where that opening
They were called the
shot,
moon. They were called the Moon Mountains.
the actual name of those mountains, the real mountains that are in the shot, not where it's supposed to be, not in Colorado, but that was shot in Montana. And in Montana, those actual mountains are called the Shining Mountains.
Okay, that's in the recesses of my brain. I think I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now
okay.
is all
no,
of
no,
this
no,
a
no,
coincidence?
no, I'm hold on. No,
You
hold
know?
on, hold on. Let me get a bit more of my Kool-Aid. I can't wait to get it. Hold on. I just took a shot of it. Keep going. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This is
So
great.
what I'm recognizing here is, okay, so he has a moon room, he has a sun room. The hotel itself is kind of like a representation of America, or maybe you could expand it to like the Earth, like the whole planet Earth. So now you have the sun, the moon, and the Earth.
I like how that just jump went from America to Earth really quick. But anyway,
Well,
I get it.
yeah, the kind of, the earthly plane, right?
I gotta give a little. We can't just both be both on the side of being insane. There needs to be a little bit of something. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work. There needs to be a little bit of
So,
okay.
I feel like
Little
my contribution
Larry
here,
David needs to be in this episode. It has to be.
yeah. I feel like my contribution is to point this out just to further contribute to,
No, that was
the
good. That
theories
was
and everything, because
I had not heard that. I have to say I've heard most everything. I have not heard the
Yeah.
sun aspect ever before.
well, yeah, because again, to connect back to 2001, he's talking about the whole universe. So you have Jupiter and the Jupiter mission, and on the moon is where they find the monolith in 2001, right? So the
Right.
moon is a key location in 2001. And so you have all the planets in the movie 2001. And the alignment of the planets, by the way, also important in
Alignment.
2001, right? The alignment of where is the sun and where is the moon and the other planets, And so this is all important. And so now you go over to this movie, The Shining, and you have a sun room, you have a moon room, and you have the rocket ship. And again, it's parallels. He's creating all these parallels. And I just find it interesting, like what happens in those rooms. I don't know. We don't have to
We can go
keep
to the
going into
sexual
it more and
abuse
more and more.
potential of what happens to Danny. Like we can go to. All right, let me do this. Let me say this.
Yeah, 'cause
We're an hour
at
and
the end.
53 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to do this. I would like to do this
I think
because
yeah.
unless
I think
you
what
have like
happened, I think what we thought would happen has happened, which is we cannot talk about The Shining in 2 hours.
no, we knew that. But
impossible.
what I'd like to say to the audience is I'm not done talking about The Shining tonight with Andrew. This is going to continue. So you people are going to have to wait. The people who've gotten this long are going to have to wait, and you're going to have to scroll because me and Andrew are going to record the second half of this episode right now after this. But we're not going to release that episode until later because what me and Andrew have been looking forward is we haven't had a backup of episodes. If Andrew takes a vacation, we need to have an episode we can drop. So now we're going to record right now, not for you to hear, but we're going to record the second half of the Shining episode that he will drop at a time that's convenient for him when him and Hazel take a vacation. But we're going to continue this conversation, Andrew, and there's no way we're not recording the second part of this conversation. So anyone who's made it this far, scroll, and find it. It will be there somewhere. And if it's not there, you just have to wait longer, bitches.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I
we
think
can
it's a
do
good
that.
cut point. I think it's a good cut point. Unless you have anything actually
Yeah.
left to say in this episode.
Did you notice that the elevator is a face? The elevator
You mean
itself has a
are you
face?
talking about the eye at the top of the elevator?
Yeah, that the two dials at the top above the elevator look like two eyes.
Yeah. They look like Danny's eyeball. They look like Danny's
Yes,
eyeballs. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm psycho.
So, I mean, if you want, my personal opinion, or I don't know, it's like, well, so what does all this mean? What does it mean that there's a moon room and a sun room? And like, so what's the point of all this? Obviously that's for different people to interpret, but I would just point to this idea of consciousness, of the fact that the hotel has a consciousness, right? The hotel is alive and it speaks to you, right? It puts images in your mind. It shows you images. It can essentially fool you. It can essentially like communicate with you telepathically, right? That's what The Shining is. It's like this telepathic connection. And it goes beyond spoken language. And the hotel has this capability. And when you're in these various places, the sun room, the moon room, whatever it is, you have these different visions. And then the hotel itself has a face. So the hotel is a conscious entity. And it started to connect in my mind to make me think about the universe and the planets in a way where I thought, what if the Earth itself is a conscious entity, right? What if planet Earth is a living being that almost has a mind beyond what we can even perceive, because planet Earth is so big that, how can a human brain even comprehend that? But like, what if the Earth itself has a consciousness? What if the sun has a consciousness? What if the moon has a consciousness? What if our universe as we know it is actually an intelligent entity? That's a thought that
then
Stanley Kubrick put in my head.
yeah. No, I mean then we're Disney's Pocahontas. We're riding on that. And I'll say we're at 157 right now, and for anybody who wants to know my response to that, you're gonna have to wait until Andrew decides to drop
Yeah,
the second half of this conversation, which is actually not the second half of this conversation. Every year we are going to have a revisit of
probably. Yeah, we probably will be. So just to end this episode, I think that to me, my overall takeaway of The Shining is the thing I said about the dimensions. I really think that's what the movie's about. I think the movie is about the ascending and descending of dimensions. That we as human beings, we live in the third dimension, space and time. That's our dimension. And in 2001, Dave Bowman, the Star Child, goes through a Stargate. He goes through a portal and he transcends dimensions and he ends up in a higher dimension. And I think that Jack, through his choices and through being stuck in the maze of his own mind, stuck in the maze of the hotel, whatever,
in the
and he
maze of
starts to
alcoholism. That's a
of
huge
alcoholism,
part of
yes,
that,
of
which we will get
resentment.
into part 2. All right, keep it going.
Yeah,
You got 20
I
seconds
think
left.
I think that it's about him devolving and he goes down to, he's punished by being sent to a lower dimension, right? He's frozen in the snow and then he's frozen in the photograph. So he's frozen, he ends up frozen in both. And he ends up going from the third dimension down to the second dimension and he's flattened and he's frozen for all time in this black and white two-dimensional photograph.
I love you, Andrew, and we're gonna continue this rest of the conversation in a couple minutes once this video processes, and we love the rest of you. And the second part of
Yeah.
this is even gonna be better, which will be even more and more and more. Love you all.
Yeah, that's gonna be the free one. All right.
All right.
I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. A puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
Because King, he brought a lot to the whole basis of the movie. Yes, he didn't put the Native American aspect in his novel in any way whatsoever. Like, that's not a thing that's within his novel. But
okay.
I've listened. I listened to when I became obsessed with the movie. I listened to the book on audio tape on CD, and I was just like, "What's the differences? Why is this here?" Like when Jack's talking to Mr. Grady at that point. Charles Grady, because the first name changes throughout the thing, but he was talking to him with the avocate and he's ripping it off of him. And he's talking to him specifically about like, it was Charles or Delbert. Yeah, it's one or the other.
Yeah,
But
I think
he's
the second one was Delbert. Yeah.
The second one was Delbert. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's talking to him about, an aspect of, oh, I lost my train of thought. Leave it in 2.0. Let it go.
Oh, okay.
Let it go. Let it
Okay.
go.
Wait, you were talking about the scene with Grady, where he's talking about in that scene. By the way, I did notice that Jack does not look at Grady; he's looking in the mirror.
He's looking
You
in the
know,
mirror. Yes,
like,
that's the
yeah,
reflection aspect
yeah,
of that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's so many little fascinating details like that.
I had somewhere to go with the other thing. We'll
Yeah,
figure that
yeah, I
out on the
feel like
next
you
episode of
were
wherever.
okay,
I
I
was
guess.
going somewhere with it.
Okay.
It was gonna tie
You're-
around.
In the scene, what do they talk about? They talk about, you've corrected, I corrected them
And that'll bring my
you-
brain to another place. Yeah,
No,
that's
you
like
didn't. Okay, I was trying to help
you
you. Okay,
I
forget it.
corrected her. Yeah, this basically
Um,
just going kill your family. Yeah, no.
right.
I'll listen back to the episode and I'll be like, oh, that's what I wanted to
yeah.
say, and then I'll go into the next episode with them.
Yeah, you said a lot, and then
Yeah, I
I'm
wanted to
trying
just
to
dump it on
remember.
your head there.
Yeah,
We were
now I'm
talking
trying to
about color theory
remember.
is where we were talking
Right,
about,
we were
and
talking
you had
about
something to bring to
color.
color theory.
Oh, and then okay, so I was gonna say, so you believe